Welcome to Big Hobbies. In my SCX24 Gladiator first look at my thoughts video, I took a baseline of the stock truck. It weighed 268.5 grams, just shy of the 0.6 pounds. It also had 44% front and 56% rear weight distribution. It also had 155mm or 6.1 inch long wheelbase. 22mm, roughly an inch longer wheelbase than any of the previous SCX24. Then in my SCX24 Gladiator first test run and assessment video, I took the Gladiator to my local testing ground to see how a stock Gladiator performs, and saw firsthand the good and the bad traits. The longer wheelbase also helped with stability and climbing. It also confirmed the areas that will need improvement, mainly lowering the CG and the weight distribution. I was quite surprised with the version 2 of the ESC and the transmitter radio with its low speed control and drag brake. With 44% front and 56% rear weight distribution, it is going to need quite a bit of help to get to the ideal weight distribution. One way of achieving that is through adding tons of weight, but I usually take a different approach. Before I start focusing on upgrades, I have to make a decision on which direction I'll be taking on the Gladiator. Should it be turned into a rock crawler or a scaled trail truck that can climb? So in this video, I'm going to focus on free mods first, then look into the upgrades later. The first free mod is to focus on the shocks. The stock shocks are quite bouncy, so most folks go out and spend money buying new shocks thinking that it is going to be way better. Most of them don't offer any type of dampening, so they'll still be bouncy. So if you plan to upgrade, make sure to pick up oil dampened shocks. In my case, I'm going to mod the stock shocks by adding suspension preload using O-rings and improve the dampening by adding a thick grease or even better, a green slime. Shock O-ring grease, also known as the green slime, is typically used on rebuilding of bigger RC shocks so that they don't leak, and it works really well here. I have a detailed step-by-step video on how to get this done, so I will post a link to the video at the top right corner. Here's my C10 with the modified shocks. At a high level, we're going to be using a small O-ring to add preload and add a small dab of thick grease, such as marine grease or high temp auto grease or even green slime, to improve dampening. I'm also going to mount the shocks upside down as it helps to maintain the grease inside the canister. Gravity at work here. Let's take a look at the stock shock on the left and the modified shock on the right. Note that the overall length stays the same for both shocks, but on the modified shock you can see the O-ring that was installed, and also notice that the cup was reversed, adding a total of 3mm of preload. If you look at the springs very carefully, you'll notice that the space between the spring is much tighter than the stock shock, and this is what you want. You can play with the O-rings and add more preload, but I find that 3mm works really well. Here's my Gladiator with the first free mod done. For our second free mod, I'm going to remove the slop on steering. The slop is coming from the tie rod, as well as the steering linkages, as you can see here. All you need to do to remove the slop from the steering is 4 O-rings. I had a long time ago bought a set of O-rings for Harbor Freight for under $10, and I used the size A006. But any small O-rings will work. The steering link, the tie rod, is held by one screw on each end. Loosen one at a time, then add the O-ring in between and put the screw back on. It's a pretty simple thing, but it will help tremendously. Here's my Gladiator with the second free mod done. You can clearly see the 4 O-rings installed at each end. 1, 2, 3, and the 4. And you can see the slop is greatly removed. The third free mod is for those that plan to continue using the stock axial servo. Normally the stock servo is so weak, most folks just replace it, especially when Emax servos are so cheap. But I was quite surprised with the performance of the stock string servo. That being said, if you plan to not upgrade the servo just yet, I would super glue the servo saber. It will improve the steering quite a bit. The servo saber is there to protect from burning out the servo, but at the same time it rubs up some steering performance. By super gluing it, you minimize the loss of the power. In my case, I plan to upgrade the stock servo to a better one, so I will skip this one. Here's my Gladiator with the free mods done. In the next video, we'll start on the actual upgrades, and I should know by then which direction I'll be taking my Gladiator with. Hope you found the information helpful and useful. If you like the contents of this video, please make sure to subscribe and hit the like and the notification bell to be notified when new contents are uploaded. Thanks for watching Big Sun Hobbies.